Chairman. With all the niceties extended your way today, I want to add to it. You've been an excellent chairman. You've got a year left, so we're not letting you off the hook yet. And we look forward to that excellence continuing. Director Swagel, there were some numbers that were reiterated earlier about the working families tax cut relative to how many people would, with the changes, have to make adjustments. And so as those raw numbers are recited or recounted, you gave some numbers. Can you tell me how many, because this is left out, of those who will no longer be in compliance, how that millions, almost 10 million, how that breaks down? Because I've got that information in front of me, and I think it's important when we talk through that. First note is almost half of those with the changes to the working families tax cut could still remain eligible for Medicaid if they complied with just 20 hours of classroom activity, increasing their own skill level, get an education or community service, or get a job. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's right. We modeled that, the effect of the Medicaid, the work requirements in Medicaid and SNAP, and we also modeled and included in our estimate the number of people who would work as a result.
So that's half of what that number is. There would be no change if they would comply with 20 hours a week, which is Bill Clinton-like work requirements. And if you go back and you look at history, when the poverty level is actually, that should be a real goal, is to positively change the poverty level. When you go back and look in the last 30 and 40 years when the poverty level has actually gone down, you'll see it in direct correlation to the work requirements under the Clinton era. Pretty interesting in the last 30 years. And I've got that slide in front of me. If anybody wants to come gather it, I can show it to you. So that's almost 5 million. And then there's 1.4 million that we know were illegal aliens. And then there's another 1.3 million that people forget to leave out that were those who don't even meet the income eligibility requirements for Medicaid because they make too much. And the reason why that change in the working families tax cut establishes a review to actually say, wait a minute, do you actually comply with the metrics that Congress, when they laid out under the LBJ administration, who should be eligible for Medicaid, the income threshold, a means-tested program? We know there were 2 years under the Biden administration where no one did a litmus test to see if they made too much. And by the working families tax cut, we update it to every 6 months. So now we find out, do you make too much? So that there's truth in the program so those that are really in need are served. All right, now let's switch gears. Would you dispute anything I just said?
No, in fact, our estimate has those effects, the end of passive re-enrollment, the increased verification on the ACA side, on Medicaid side, and that is in our estimate. We've also provided information on what you said about people misstating their income, in substance, people who are not eligible for Medicaid overstate their income in order to qualify for ACA.
No, this is fraud. It's definite fraud. Okay, now let's roll into the ACA subsidies because there's another number of millions that there will be some adjustments there. But I will also want to remind all of us that the Democrats wrote the legislation that says that it would expire at this time because the Democrats, who had the majority at the time that it was written, knew they didn't have the votes to extend it past 2025 because they knew the expense of it. And what they're also not making sure that the American people are aware of is you've got people up to 400% above the poverty line that are on that program. 25% of those that we're talking about make 400% above the 1 million, make 400% above the federal poverty line. And the Democrats designed the program to expire this year because COVID was a one-time limited era, one-time in a 100-year type incident. And so they designed it to roll back. So I just want to make sure those points, when people throw out these millions of people, you better break it down and you better make sure we know what we're talking about. Let me ask you about, just to make sure that the CBO remains nonpartisan, what is the process that you use, I got about 30 seconds here, to make sure that partisan lenses are not utilized among your staff? And then can you tell me any type, without naming individuals, incidents where you've got examples in the last several years into your leadership where if partisan lenses start being utilized, scoring things inaccurately, that there's a metric in place to make sure that doesn't happen and there's consequences for the staff who do that? That I yield.
Okay, no, thank you. Now, I'll be brief. And ultimately, the responsibility is mine. That I'm the director. It's my responsibility to make sure that our work is nonpartisan, it's high quality. And that involves our hiring process. By statute, we hire without regard to partisan leaning, but we have to make sure that the people we hire are not partisans, that they can work in an environment that's nonpartisan. It involves the process by which we do our work. We have multiple levels of review, both up and down and across. We have outside experts who provide feedback, both, you're doing it well, constructive criticism. So we have different processes to make sure of that, and ultimately, it's really up to me. And I'll stop there, but I'll just say thank you. And I know this is important to members. They want to get the best information from us and make sure it's nonpartisan, so I appreciate that.
I thank the director and the gentleman from Oklahoma. Now yield 5 minutes to Representative Capter from Ohio.